Sociocast presents coverage of the 2019 election for the presidency and vice presidency of the American Sociological Association. I'm Joseph Cohen from Queen's College. To give voters a better sense of the candidates, we asked the four major office candidates to answer 7 questions about the discipline, the association, and their vision for both. To hear the other candidates, visit www.sociocast.org/ASA 2019. I hope you enjoyed the interview. We're here with Aldon Morris, Professor of Sociology and African American Studies at Northwestern University. He's a presidential candidate for the American Sociological Association. Thank you for joining us, Professor Morris.
I am delighted to be with you.
Could you begin by telling us about yourself and your work?
Yes. Of course, I've been a sociologist since 1980. I work on social movements, political sociology, race, all forms of social inequality. So I've been doing it for a good while. And if you want to know about my work as a sociologist, I would say that I use the sociological imagination and sociological research to understand human societies of the past, in the present, and even to contemplate about what societies will be like in the future. I think that sociology provides, wonderful theories, concepts, and data through which to understand the social world and even to understand yourself. So I think I've learned a lot about myself by studying sociology. Now, for as long as I can remember, I've been obsessed with understanding race inequality and racism and how they can be eradicated. So as a Black person in America, I am interested in all forms of inequality, including class, gender, and race inequalities. So that as a sociologist, I study social inequality and use sociological understandings to inform my activism, which seeks to initiate change. And so I think that sociology provides a great deal of knowledge to inform people about how to go about doing social change work. So I don't see it as just an academic endeavor, but one that is relevant to actually trying to bring about changes.
In your opinion, what do sociologists do? What's our role in society? What's the purpose of our profession?
Sociologists are very curious souls. Some people would say that they are nosy, but we endeavor to understand the complexities of the human condition so that knowledge supplied by sociological research can be used to better human lives, to better social institutions, to better cultures, so that the role of sociologists is to inform people about how societies work and to positively affect policy and activism. One of the interesting things about being a sociologist is that, for the most part, I think all people believe that they are sociologists in one way or another. But when you study sociology, you really come to understand society is very complex, and you have to study it in a very systematic way to come to understand societies. And so then that's what I do.
In your view, what's the ASA's job? Whom does it serve, and what does it do? What's its role in the discipline?
ASA, of course, it's a professional learned society of sociologists. And ASA's job, in my view, is to promote and support the sociological profession so that it is better able to conduct research and to develop theories and to produce concrete knowledge useful to understanding and betterment of humankind. So then, in the broadest sense, the ASA should help empower sociologists to serve humanity by clarifying our values, by studying how social forces shape our lives, often generating unintended consequences. So then, in this sense, I would say that ASA has a noble and an important mission. ASA also has an obligation, I think, to issue policy statements on important issues affecting people. We have sociologists studying pretty much all aspects of society. So when we need to know something about class inequality, gender inequality, or how institutions work and so forth, it is the job of sociologists to do that, to provide that kind of knowledge. And as I said, the ASA has an obligation then to issue policy statements on important issues that affect people.
What is your sense of the biggest issues facing our discipline? Do you have ideas about how to engage them?
I think that the biggest issues facing our discipline is devastating social inequality, poverty, war. We talk about war now. We also talk about the possibility of a nuclear war that could really end life on the planet as we know it. I think that another issue that sociologists deal with is hatred of various kinds, and also the environment, especially the challenge of climate change and the survival of planet Earth, really. In the broadest sense, I would say that another major issue that we face right now is sexual harassment, a problem that the Me Too movement has made very visible. And so, from my point of view, sociologists need to study this issue. And we also need to model relationships that's absent of sexual harassment. Sociologists need to continuously map out the major issues that human beings face and to train sociologists to explore these issues soberly and with great imagination. I think that as sociologists, we need to advance solutions to our problems. And I also think that we should actively advocate for them. I don't think that, again, that sociology is just an academic discipline, but one that is concerned with how societies are structured, concerned with why people suffer disproportionately. And so we need to do research and come up with solutions as best we can. And we, again, I think, need to engage in activism and advocate for certain kinds of changes that would better society, better human beings, give people greater life chances.
We solicited questions from our colleagues, and here are three that we chose for this election. So, the first colleague question is if you are elected, what goals will motivate your presidency? What will be distinct about the ASA under your guidance?
First of all, sociological scholarship reveals that systems of domination, and by a system of domination, I am referring to patriarchy, race, class, and sexual orientations. And these systems of domination, they interact, they intersect, they mutually reinforce each other. So that in these troubling times, a sociology of liberation, rooted in empirical observation and theorizing from data rather than from ideology, is really long overdue. In my view, this sociology is realizable through systematic study and rigorous reasoning in the scholarly tradition that was pioneered by W.B. Du Bois. As ASA president, I would promote using existing methodologies and formulating new ones that facilitate the collection and analysis of critical evidence, leading to new theoretical perspectives on the social conditions that's faced by oppressed groups. If I were elected, I would organize the conference to push the limits of knowledge, to point us toward relief from gender discrimination and sexual harassment, racism, heteronormativity, and really devastating class inequalities. I mean, we class inequality is growing daily. In so doing, I think we can make sociology relevant to positive social transformation. And in this way, we reclaim sociology's radical roots, which of course are anchored in research. So while sociology's strength derives from heterogeneous theories and methodologies, our intellectual habitus need interrogation to generate new insights into an increasingly complex world. And so, if I were elected, I would pursue those kinds of goals to make sociology more relevant, to increase its theoretical power, and also to emphasize the importance of evidence, of data, to answer many really complex problems in the world today.
Do you think that the claimed, quote, divide, unquote, in sociology between dispassionate empiricism and activism, is it accurate or overstated? Do you think that this kind of talk is generative and productive or divisive? And what will you do to make everyone feel represented in the Big Tent?
Well, first of all, I think the so called divide between dispassionate empiricism and activism is somewhat accurate, but overstated. It is accurate in that many sociological scholars have been trained and have convinced themselves that such a divide exists and is a useful analytical distinction. They believe that science and activism don't mix. But then the divide is overstated precisely because most sociologists entered the profession because they care deeply about the human condition. And many of them wish to change its most deleterious aspects. So if you think about the classical sociologists, here I'm referring to Marx, to Durkheim, to Du Bois, and Weber, they each cared deeply about the human condition. And they sought to change it in their own particular ways, based on sociological analysis and activism. From my vantage point, this is my view, great scholarship and great activism go hand in hand. In fact, they mutually cross fertilize each other. So that's that's my approach. I think petty arguments over objectivity and bias and activism is out of place. I think that we should just continue to do the very best work we can do, and that we should try to make change that we think should be made.
Sociologists are concerned about inequality, and we know that a lot of inequality exists in our discipline. Virtually everything we do is suffused with inequality, and some argue unfairness. The teaching we deliver our undergrads, access to graduate programs, opportunities to get good faculty jobs, access to research money, platform, and so on. Which inequalities within sociology concern you, and do you have ideas about how to engage it?
Well, first of all, I can't talk about social inequality within sociology without talking about social inequality more generally. See, because sociology reflects and mirrors the society in which it is embedded. So then from my point of view, if when I think about inequalities, I think about, again, class inequality, race inequality, gender inequality, health disparities. All of those deeply concern me. And I think that great research, imagination, creativity, and informed activism are, in my view, the tools we need to begin tackling these inequalities and producing solutions to try to rectify them. So I think that We should question the elitism within the field. I think that we should try to be very inclusive. We need to recruit sociologists from all backgrounds, all races, different societies, because it is only when we have all of these views at the table and let them clash. But in that clashing is when you get new ideas. And I think that we should be very careful in our teaching. We should be sensitive to the perspectives and the needs of students from very diverse backgrounds. I think that it's a shame that there are all of these movements to deny affirmative action. I can say unequivocally that if it were not for affirmative action, I wouldn't have gotten a PhD, I wouldn't have gone to college, wouldn't be running for the president of ASA. And so I think that sociology really should practice more what it preaches, and should be able to use sociological knowledge and analysis to understand itself as a discipline. And so I am very aware of the inequalities within the discipline. And I think that we should start at home, that is, within the discipline, trying to make changes that we then would try to take to the society and say, look, we've made these kinds of changes. We've decreased the inequality in who gets an education. We have decreased the inequality in terms of who's able to get jobs in the profession, and we need to eradicate all of these inequalities that affect us. And I believe that sociology has a great promise, and that is that we can do this. It takes dedication, it takes commitment, but I am optimistic regarding the future of sociology. But it will not be easy. It will not be easy because we are social beings ourselves with interests and biases. And we need to recognize that sociology does not liberate us. It can if we really study how societies operate and we try the best we can to be models of behavior characterized by equality. And I think that we can do that.
This has been SocioCast's coverage of the 2019 ASA presidential and vice presidential elections. For more, go to sociocast.org/ASA 2019. Our producer is Liseth Moreno. I'm Joe Cohen. Thanks for listening.